And a very good evening to you guys. Thank you for joining us tonight for a bit of tango.
That's right. So what's in store for tonight?
So tonight we have a musicality class, and it's all about Osvaldo Fresedo. I'm going to say a few words about Fresedo in a second.
Okay, so for the guys who just joined us, thank you so much for joining us today. Let's just run through the schedule.
Of course.
For this week.
Absolutely. So today, of course, is our musicality class with Fresedo, starting now at 7 p.m. for beginners and 8 for intermediate and advanced dancers. We are going to make it a little bit more advanced in an hour. Then we have Friday, and this Friday coming is our pure technique and styling class. As you might have joined one in the past, you know that it's for solo dancers. And we are going to focus on musicality and speed this time.
And 7 p.m. leaders, 8 p.m. followers. And all the times we refer to are UK times.
Absolutely. Then we have Sunday coming at 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. So 2 p.m. for beginners and 3 for intermediate and advanced dancers. And finally, our last is next Tuesday, which is the Tango workout at 12:30 p.m. UK. And of course, then it comes back to Wednesday. So this is a program.
That's right.
Yes.
Should we start?
Absolutely. Let's start. So, a few words about the man, Osvaldo Fresedo. So Fresedo is a very, very interesting composer for a few reasons. One of the reasons is he's had the longest tango career. So he played and composed for nearly 60 years, which is of course a very, very long stretch of time. And he started very early because he was born in 1897. And he had his first quartet, so small orchestra if you like, at the age of 16, so very, very young age. And he really brought a lot to tango. So I'd like to kind of say a few words about who he's from and his history a little bit, so because it actually helps us understanding how to dance and why the things he's written, why they're actually written this way. So he was coming from a middle society. So basically, he was from La Patronal, which is in Buenos Aires, and he moved to different places. But it was very interesting. His very early age, he went to a bar once, and this is a little story, if you like. I always like the little story behind the people. He went to a little bar in the neighborhood, and he listened to tango concerts. And he really loved it, and this is why he's decided to learn the bandoneon and to start tango. But interesting to mention that in this was only 3-piece orchestra, so very, very small orchestra, if you like, of 3 people, and there was a certain Francisco Canaro playing at the violin. So it's not bad to start your career just having a look at who's this guy? This guy is Francisco Canaro. Okay. So very, very
all these geniuses together, I would have loved to experience
of course.
that live. It would have been amazing.
Yes. So he really started early, and then very early on he started to not only set up his own orchestra, Orchestra Fresedo, but he also started to travel. And as early as the 1920, at the age of 23, he went to the US and he recorded something for a certain Victor. I'm sure you heard of Orquesta Típica Victor, that's the same label. So he worked for this label for a little while, he came back, set up his full orchestra piece, and he started to really be more and more popular. Now, something that I'd like to mention, I'm going to repeat it for the beginners, for the intermediate lesson in an hour, is Fresedo is all about elegance. So if you really have to say one thing about his work, is romantic elegance. So it's all about the fine touches. It's not very, very like Pugliese or other people who are actually, they came later, of course, they started in the 40s, but Fresedo, more early age, was more about the little touches, and that made his music quite spectacularly beautiful to listen to and very, very harmonious. Something that, contrary to other people like Troilo or other composers, he believed that the orchestra in itself was the music. So he didn't really believe in solo pieces. So you don't have many solos in his music, in his work. it's mostly the orchestra working together. But very, very interesting to mention that he was so good that at some point he was invited in New York to conduct the Symphonic Orchestra of New York. So it's quite a big feast. More than 50 people to conduct. So this is how this is how big he was in terms of his skill and his understanding of tango and how to manage an orchestra. So very interesting person. And of course, what's also very interesting to mention is he really appealed to not only the middle classes in Buenos Aires, but he started to appeal to the upper classes as well. And that was because, of course, he was very, very rich and delicate in his music. And at some point, so in the mid-20s, he was so popular that he had no choice than to divide his orchestra in four, because he needed to. He was so busy everywhere. He had to actually dance, to direct in 4 nightclubs at a time. So he had to have 4 orchestras. So this is how busy he was in the height of his career. Okay, so this is really, really interesting. He recorded more than 1,200 songs.
All these composers, they're so hardworking. It's unbelievable.
He was really, really hardworking, incredibly hardworking. He worked for the label Victor for a short while, for the label Odeon for a couple of years, so for different labels, and he would actually produce an insane amount of songs, and he would constantly revisit his orchestra to add maybe a singer to replace a violinist and so on. This is his ongoing work to make it better and better and better. And of course, I'll have a look at. We'll have a look later at the evolution of the style in his career. But of course, in the early 20s and the early 40s and all the way to the 60s, his style evolved a little bit, of course. But there's always
do, isn't it?
Yes, there's always a little bit of Fresedo in there, which is the elegance and refinement.
Kept it. That's
yes.
Good. That's
okay.
Really good.
So, one question for you viewers. Where are you viewing this from? Because we always like to see where this is, where our viewers are coming from. Very, very interesting to see for us.
Yes, so both viewers, Instagram and YouTube, don't be shy. Let us know.
Okay. So after this few words about Fresedo, why Fresedo? Of course, it's one of very, very, very big orchestras, very important orchestras when it comes to dancing tango. If you're a complete beginner, don't worry too much about the songs just yet. What we're going to is to start from the top or from the bottom, whichever you see it, from the start, to see how you start building your posture and how you start moving together. Okay? So, one thing I like to mention in terms of posture, I'm going to face this way, is I like you to have your feet together when you start, have your hips going a little bit back, you go a little bit up with the chest, and you make sure that you are having your head not forward but in its natural alignment here. Now, one thing that you also should do is make sure that when you start moving, the hips do not start moving up or back and forth, and your center of gravity here stays at the same level, so you don't go too much up and down. There is no bobbing. Yes, so we try to avoid the bobbing when we start. So how do you start moving? You start with what we call a projection, which is one leg going forward, and I'm going to connect to my thigh and my glute by contracting them a little bit and starting pushing with my heel on the floor, and I'm going to go a little bit forward here until I reach the middle point. So the first stage is the projection, and I'm going to translation is the second stage until I reach this here. Note I have 50-50 weight on 2 legs. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to push on the back foot until I collect my feet. Very important if you start tango today that you don't go with the torso here. You actually are giving the energy is coming from the floor here, and you collect. So let's do it a few times. I'm going to start from here. I'm going to go a bit in a circle if you like. I'm starting with the projection, I'm pushing, and I go. And of course I'm not going to stop. I'm going to make it continuous. Note that I spend a good amount of time in the middle here. This is important in tango. You don't rush, especially in Fresedo. We are going to spend a significant amount of time in the middle to make it soft to match the music. Bam, bam. You receive your weight on the heel. This is fine. If you want to make it softer, you can apply what we did with the technique class the other day, which is going a bit with the toes for a few steps until you resume your usual caminata. Okay, follow us. Here we go.
All right. Okay, guys. So what happens here, as you already know, is shifting of the weight. So I'm going to transfer the weight. This transfer of the weight is indicated by the leader. Now I'm going to have my projection towards the direction where I'm going. In this situation, is towards the back. I'm going to push from the standing leg into the middle, transferring the weight onto the toes, and now transferring my center to the back, arriving on the heel, and going through the collection. Project, push, transfer, continue transferring, and collect one last time, small step, push, transfer, and collect. Okay, one more time. Project, push, transfer, collect. Project, push, transfer, collect. Project, push, transfer, collect. Okay, one last time. Project, push, transfer, toes first, heel, collect. Project, push, transfer, heel, and collect. Project, push, transfer, heel, and collect. Shall we have a look at how it looks together?
Absolutely.
Oh, I thought it was a little bit dark.
Okay, so Fresedo is our composer today. So I'm going to invite my partner with my left hand. My left is facing me, and my right is going to go around her waist, right here. And I'm going to place my weight on one leg here, and I start projecting a little bit by pushing with the back leg, which is the right leg. And I go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so how am I translating or transferring the information to my partner that I'm going forward? Simply by not being afraid of stepping on her, by going with the torso. So be careful if you're starting today. The tendency, of course, is to want to go with the foot and the torso is going back. This is not going to work, and she's going to she's not going to feel that you're wanting her to go back. So what I'm doing here is I connect either with the chest, or if I leave it open, I'm here. Whichever option you prefer is fine. But as a leader, I need to really connect to the heel of my back foot, pushing forward. It has to be very clear. There's this intention that you can receive to step forward, or so in this case backwards.
That's very, very helpful.
Yes.
Make it very, very clear in the communication, which
We
of course
try.
followers will love.
Exactly, exactly. So this is how we start moving around. Let's do one more time. If you're a solo dancer, this is very, very important that you practice by yourself how you start moving in tango. You are basically matching your speed to the beats, and the beat is roughly 1 beat per second. When it comes to Fresedo, we have not many times of where the song becomes rhythmical. It doesn't mean none. There are some moments where it's a bit more rhythmical, but most of it is a bit more melodic, which means it's soft and slow, which is in the case of Pompero here, or other songs that we are going to have a look at later. So these little accelerations will be very limited in time, but for now we want you to stay on the beats, and if you're going back, try to apply what Paula just mentioned. If you're going forward, really connect to the back leg, your heel, pushing yourself so that you really go and you have the intention. So you don't have to have a partner to practice. One more?
Yeah. Can I just change the position of the light? So to the wall.
Okay. I think it's probably going to be
Okay, sure.
Okay, so we're going to start today with one specific step that we would like to teach to you beginners and recent beginners, which is the planeo. Now, why have we chosen this? Everything is reflecting the fact that the song is very, very soft and melodic, and one element of this is the fact that one of us, either the leader or the follower, is not moving. Moving means we change weight and we travel in space. So, of course, we are moving in terms of there's movement in the body, but basically one leg is going to stay at the same place for a sustained amount of time, which works very well if the music is very melodic and elegant, like in the case of FRESEDO. So this is what it's going to look like, and we're going to have a look at how it's working in detail. But basically, I'm going to invite my partner in the corte, and I'm going to start pushing her around this way. So let's have a look at the corte first.
Would you mind keeping it on that side for
Yes.
Yeah.
Sure. So let's have a look at how we start with the corte. The corte is this position where our partner is on our right side and she's on the bent leg. So I'm going to go forward, I'm going to pivot her, and I'm going to invite her downwards here with my embrace. So a couple of things need to happen for you leaders. First of all, when you go forward, you need to stop onto your right leg. That means, maybe we do it this way, so it's easier. I need to stop onto my right leg. See, my right is what's supporting my weight, my left is up in the air. Before I start pivoting her first. So this is the first step. The pivot is actually done by having this element of dissociation in my body here, while my torso is starting to go towards the right, while my hips stay where they are. Yes, it's this here. And of course, my follower has a bit of a firm embrace, so she can receive the information, and she can understand she needs to pivot, and Paula is going to explain to you how it's working in a second. Now, once I'm here, I need as a leader to invite my partner a little bit backwards by opening with the right part of my embrace here. So this part is basically pulling, if you like, my partner, but not with the hand, but with the shoulder blade here. I'm inviting my partner to go down, and only then I'm inviting her to go even more down by having a little bit of downward movement. If you like, I'm putting a bit of weight in my embrace to actually indicate, please go down here. 1, 2. I might have a little bit of flexion as a leader, but ideally my feet are still together. As she does the pivot, before I start moving my foot in this position where my right foot is going to be in contact with her left, and we're here ready for what's coming next. Yeah.
Can we turn around and I'll show my part? Alright, so first of all, I'm going to have my weights on my right leg, left leg, sorry. Now I'm going to pivot here. I'm going to remain on the same leg for the pivot, and my weight is going to be transferred onto that back foot. Notice that the leg is straight forward, but there's no weight. Yeah, it's on the floor and both knees are together. Okay, then from here, I'm going to transfer the weight forward, entering, one more time, entering with rotation of the upper body.
Here. To do it, maybe we do it like as a little exercise for
Okay.
us. Yeah?
Yeah.
So leaders, we invite you to do the same. We are going to just do the corte. Yeah? Should we?
Okay.
So we have our weight onto our left leg. We pivot to the torso. We pivot on the left leg. We open, and then we kind of pull the hips back to end up into corte here. Yes? Yeah, is it good?
Mm-hmm.
So, pivot on the left. Maybe I just show you this way, it's easier.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm on my left leg as a follower. I'm going to start pivoting here with my torso. This torsion is communicated to the hips. I'm pivoting on the hips here. I'm sending my leg back. Note that my knees are staying together, and then I'm pulling my torso, sorry, my hips backward so that I go with a straight torso. So if you...
Can I just say a few things
Yes, of course.
about that? So when you are transferring the weight onto that back leg, just make sure that the hips are straight in alignment with the floor rather than taking them forward or back. So I'm going to go straight. Can I borrow it a second? I'm going to take the center with me on top of the standing leg. So it feels a little bit like sitting straight on that standing leg. The standing leg is flexed. Mm-hmm.
Sitting is exactly the sensation, because you're basically being on the stool here. Of course, the stool is your own leg, but anyway.
So little test to see if you don't have any weight on that front leg. You can take it off the floor a few times.
And one. Now, leaders, you have to transfer the weight onto the left leg. Your right is going to open and contact and establish contact with the left foot. So let me show you with this angle here. I'm sending my partner around me, and this leg here, this foot is establishing contact with the left foot. Yes, I was here, and I bring it here. Be careful, it's very tempting to start going this way or this way. No, none of it, just that way here, where my inside of the foot is in contact with hers. One more thing to remember as a leader, not too deep here. It's right here where my big toe is in contact with her foot here. Right. So this is how we establish the corte. Now the corte is the entry to a lot of different steps. We are going to see what's coming next right now.
Let's give them some time to practice this
Sure.
one. So guys, if you have any questions, please, now is the time. But of course, if you have them later, it's also fine. We'll try our best to get back to all of you.
Okay, yes, a few seconds. We can practice. Okay, so.
And we have USA in the house, lots of
Hello.
people.
So.
Also people from America.
So let's continue and see what the planeo looks like. It's going to be some kind of planeo, but more like a barrida, in fact, as you see. So let's have a look first, and then we'll show you how it works. So again, I'm getting my partner into a corte. Here, I'm opening my knee and my hip so that I have this position with my foot here. Now, this is very important. You have to imagine in your head that I'm going to draw a circle with her foot, and the center of the circle is her right foot or right leg. Yes? So have a visualization of how it's going to work, because what you have to do as a leader is go over the foot here, point, and then I'm going to start going with my weight onto my front leg here, and I'm going to start pushing this leg here until I have my leg fully extended. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Couple of things for leaders. What's very, very important for you to understand so that it works is you really need to have an arch, of course, a circle done with this foot here. If you start going sideways or inwards, she's going to lose her balance because she will feel that you're invading her space or on the contrary going away from her. So this is the little circle that you need to do with your foot to accompany her with hers. So why is she pivoting? Because I'm pushing her with the foot. The torso and the embrace is very, very soft in this case. I'm not trying, maybe I'll show how it works. I'm not trying to do this here, where my embrace is trying to make a pivot here. What is actually working is my foot pushing, and see I could almost do it without the embrace here. There.
So it's important to give a little bit of resistance, talking for followers, to give a little bit of resistance of the free leg towards their traveling leg. So here I'm giving a little bit of resistance, so then when he is moving the leg, everything goes together. So here the knees are also together, and I am utilizing the standing leg to pivot, and everything goes at the same time. Yeah? Together, he goes, and again, together.
And I finish maybe for now this way. Okay? So maybe if you're a solo dancer, what you could do is simply get onto your right leg here and see how you could imagine someone pushing you, of course using your torso and your dissociation, to see how you can practice being stable on the back leg, or the right leg. Yeah, so maybe we can do this for a few seconds. Should we?
Go for it.
Okay. Okay, music here is better. So let's go to the right leg here. I'm bending the right leg. I'm going forward with the left. My knees are connected. My torso is straight. And I'm going to start associating to have a little movement here. It's not very big, of course, but the idea is to stay stable. Now, of course, what you need to do is make sure that your weight is onto the ball of your foot. Yes? Do not try to pivot on the heel, it's on the ball. The more you go a little bit up with the heel, the better it feels in terms of balance here. 1, 2, 3, 4. If you are finding it easy, you can increase the amount of pivot there. Okay, so let us see how we can finish this in a very elegant way, because of course, if Paula, if we do it, it's quite nice, maybe a bit more in the center, it's quite nice to add it a bit nicely. 1, 2. Now here, what I'm going to do a sandwich. I'm going to go a little bit forwards, my left is going to go around here, this way. I'm going to change my way to the left, I'm going to go around with my right here, and I'm going to go gently onto my back leg, there. So at this stage she's going forward because she feels the pull from my embrace, not my arms, but my back, and I'm going to gently maybe finish this way here. Of course, normally I would do an ocho to finish, it's a bit more elegant, but to simplify for now, we just finish it here. So, here, I do my little barrida, which means sweep, as many times as I like. I have my feet together, I go around, I invite my partner forwards.
So what happens here is I'm going to the sandwich with a little bit of flexion of the standing leg, because the leader's standing leg is also flexed.
Yes, from here to here. Now, I'm going to invite my partner around, and I finish here, and I can of course go forward here. Let me show you how normally it is done. Normally we end with a little forward ocho at the end. If it's not too long, you can practice that for, let's say, improvers or recent beginners who are comfortable with this. 1, 2, and here I'm going to pivot onto my right leg and finish with a little step, and I square up by sending my partner facing me here. So very important that everything is done slowly with care. What I find very important as well is to make sure that your feet are not disconnected. What does it mean? If we're here and you do that, see, my feet are not together, it's not very nice. We need to close them. Before we are here, now my knees are connected here, I'm not putting my foot there, I'm having my foot a little bit to the left, and I'm going to gently go onto my back foot, which is the right, and this inviting my partner forward before I invite her with my embrace, with my right, the right side part of my embrace.
Yeah, does it make sense?
I hope so.
Hope so.
Let's have a quick look at questions to see if any. Okay, so a quick question, a quick answer to the question that was asked in the feed. The problem is if you are in a corte, the tendency is to do this, to go and lead with the torso. This is very tempting. Make sure to have the correct posture in your corte and therefore in your barriga later, that what is going back is the hips. Imagine that this point here, the tailbone, is being pulled back, and therefore you arrive here and you don't send your torso back. So this is very important for balance purposes.
Does that answer your question?
I hope. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, so let's do it a few times. Practice with us. If you're a solo dancer, you can practice either the leader's part, which is going around in a circle and pushing your right foot on the floor, being very gentle. Right here. If you're a follower or you want to practice the follower part, get onto the corte and start pivoting as we did earlier. If you're in couples, you can practice together. So let's have a look with music. Come back, of course. And moving around here. Okay, so this is a barriga.
Can I just give one tip, general tip for the leaders and one tip for the followers?
Okay.
You know equal rights?
Of course.
So one tip for the leaders that would really actually help the follower a lot is when you're going around, keep the distance in terms of the circle that you're drawing walking around. So if you go further away, if you start spiraling a bigger circle, it's going to be really hard for her to stay on the axis. So keep always the same distance, the same circumference. Now, for the followers, what I'd like to say is the frame is there to help you, so you can utilize a little bit of compression so that when the traveling happens, we keep the embrace as a unit, and actually it's really helping stability as well. Okay, if I have too soft of an embrace, it's not going to help us to pivot on the spot. And there was one question popping just now.
Okay.
Shall we have a look?
Sure, have a look. So for leaders, my recommendation as well is to make sure that when you do barriga, and this is something which is slightly outside of the scope of today, it could be a barriga class, but the barriga, the sweep, when I'm pushing your leg or foot, it's very important that you keep your axis as it is. What does it mean? I'm going to catch a foot here, and I'm going to push it this way. Can you see that this is not moving? It's very, very tempting to start with this. If you do that, you're going to start stumbling forward, and it's going to make the barriga very, very complicated. Yes, so here, all barriga's technique were the same. I'm pushing, well, there are a few exceptions as usual, of course, but most of them, I'm pushing whilst my hips are not moving, and everything is coming from the foot and the leg. It's there before I transfer forward here. Can you see what's happening here? First the foot up to a point I can't go any further. I don't try doing this now. I keep my hip above my heel. So my foot is pushing, and only now I go further or transfer forward with the axis.
Okay, one question from Rosario. To be quite honest, I don't fully understand. But what I'm going to do is just I'm going to show you as clearly as possible what happens after the corte into the sandwich, because I think that's the moment that you're referring to in your question. So let's have a look, yeah?
So I'm going to place my partner in corte. I connect my foot. I'm doing a few times, maybe 3 times makes you go in full circle.
Okay, do you mind just showing it, because she wants to see the moment of going forward, so if we can stop there, that's
okay.
Thank you. So from here, you ask me why do I stretch the standing leg, because I'm going through up and over. You see, one more time. The leader also goes through first, or the back leg is stretched before. There's a little flexion here, do you see? So from here, now it's going to give me the pull to go around, and I'm going to step smaller to forward. And one more time. Okay, I hope that gives you some clarity to this question.
Okay, so I have a little variation for more advanced dancers, very, very tiny. I'm going to do this. I'm going to get into my corte, I'm going to my barriga, and what you can do here is you can actually come forward, lift your partner a bit, so she's going to transfer from her back to her front leg, and I'm going to open some more to reposition her right foot. 1, 2, and then maybe here I finish. So what happens here is I'm basically communicating to my partner that I want her to go from her right foot to her left. I pivot her a little bit on the left, and I want her to go back into corte. Yes? Let's have a look.
Can I show it this way, so
Yes.
we have space if she sees?
There. Here, I place my foot exactly as it was before for the barriga. I'm going to pivot a little bit my torso. I bring her forward a little bit.
So the weight is now gone to that forward leg, is transferred. before I bring it back to the back leg again. Pivot first and then transferring again. So forward, forward, pivot, back. Yeah, weight forward, pivot, weight back. And the quicker the leader goes, the quicker the sequence will happen.
Yes. So for me, as a leader, I need to do one little thing, which is to reposition my foot. This is very, very important. If you're in couple and you try this, you'll find out that very, very quickly your foot is in the way. Let's have a look. So she's here, just again to Corte. I'm going to send her this way, and as she pivots, see my foot is now very, very much inside. Why? Because I didn't reposition it, therefore it starts to be in the way. So what I need to do when I have this little sequence of lift and drop is, as I'm sending her forward, I'm going to move a little bit the foot forward this way so that she has space to pivot with her foot. 1, 2, 1, 2. And then of course I finish the same as before with my little sequence here. So this is completely optional. It's up to you if you want to do it. You can do it once, twice. Of course, what's very, very fun is to mix and match. If you like, you have a few baridas, then you do 1 or 2 and then you exit. Or you can do small baridas, it's entirely up to you. And of course, the big decision would be depending on the music, on the song. Should we try it? Should we show it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So one thing that is interesting here for this, the last movement that we showed you, is the amount of pivots from for the follower is completely depending on the lead of the leader. So let's have a look. If I want a small pivot, I just have a little bit of this to give. So I indicate to my partner, please come onto your left leg, which is the forward leg, and I have a tiny bit of pivot with the chest before I put her back. Yeah, this is very, very tiny. It could be 1, 2. There's not much energy if you like. It could be a choice to make it small, or maybe I don't have much space around me.
Just one thing that really helps, make it very, very clear where the weight of the follower is supposed to go.
So, let's have a look. Now, if I have more rotation, then of course it can look a bit more interesting, but also it's also more harsher. So it depends on the song. You might want to do it small and soft, or a bit harsher, a bit like stronger when the music calls for it. Yeah.
And it's that time again that we're going to demonstrate everything that we did, but before that?
Yes, so we have a few things to tell you before we have our little demonstration. And
you know what's coming.
So, we have a couple of things. First of all, the library is where we have all our live classes published. You can catch up on any topic. So it's tanguito.co.uk/library. This is what it is. Okay, now This is where you can catch us on Instagram, Tanguito Academy and Paula del Tango, right here. Please do connect because we publish lots of things on Instagram. And finally, we are going to show you later how to maybe donate, purchase a ticket if you haven't done so just yet.
In case you need to leave before we finish the class, we're just going to show you where you can buy your tickets, and we really would appreciate if you would, because it's the only way we get paid. And we know these are strange and might be difficult times financially, but if you can contribute with something, we would really appreciate.
Okay, so let's have a little demonstration. We're going to do a simple dance on FRESEDO using what we just did right now. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much. We're going to come back in about 10-15 minutes for the second class at 8 p.m. And in case you need to log off, the next class is...
Yes, so 8 p.m. is our Osvaldo FRESEDO Musicality for
right.
intermediate and advanced dancers.
Yes.
And we're going to have a look at more advanced combinations and how to play with the songs.
Okay.
Good. All right.
See you soon, guys.
See you in 10 minutes or 12. Okay, welcome back to your
Welcome back,
tango
guys.
lesson.
We hope you had a great break. It always goes very fast on our end.
It was good, it was good. It's a bit less hot here. It used to be, we had a workout yesterday at 12:30 and it was so hot, unbelievable. It was like a
Which kind of fits the
like
theme?
hot yoga, but hot tango somehow.
Well, kind of fits, no?
Yes, it was very good for sweating. So, we are going to start our next class, which is the intermediate and advanced class for tango. And of course, we continue on the orchestra and composer of the day. And as you know, today is all about Osvaldo Fresedo. So, a couple of words on Osvaldo Fresedo. I'm going to quickly review what I just did. I mentioned in the first class. He was an extraordinary composer and a very gifted artist, of course, and he was very used to conducting orchestras. Something interesting about him, he really believed, although he was a bandoneonist, he was playing the bandoneon, he really believed that the melody and the tango was really kind of sustained, if you like, by the violins. So this is why his violin section is always very important, and so much in fact that unlike people like Troilo, or the musicians, he's often placed the violinist in front and the bandoneons behind. So this is how important it is, and this is why when you listen to a song by Osvaldo Fresedo, it sounds really, really melodic, sometimes a little bit melancholic almost, you know, it's not sad, but this element of richness and elegance in the song. One thing that is interesting to note is Fresedo wasn't afraid of adding other instruments, and he's occasionally used instruments such as the harp, very, very feminine instrument in the terms of the sonorities, very, very delicate, so he's used the harp on some occasions, and he's also used the vibraphone, which is some kind of interesting xylophone if you like, but it's a bit bigger. And he also used the drums, which is very rare for tango, of course later, but it was always to sustain the rhythm and to help the rhythm. It was not, of course, something that was as important as in jazz or even rock and roll. So something much more subtle, if you like, in terms of the instruments being used in the tango. So this is roughly who he is. We know that he played a lot with different composers. He had in his orchestra, at some point, if you remember what I mentioned earlier, he had 4 sections of the orchestra because they would be so busy that he had to have 4 groups, if you like, to send to a nightclub. And in one of the orchestras there was a certain pianist and sometimes violinist who you might have heard of. And his name is, of course, Carlo Di Sarli. So he worked with Di Sarli, he worked with most of the composers of that time. And also what happened is he always tried to innovate with new sounds, so really kind of rich sonorities. But something that was not really him, he tried to change a little bit in the 40s when the new generation started to be popular, so the Troilos, the Puglieses started to be very popular. He tried to adapt to this new genre, which is a bit more dramatic, a bit stronger, but you quickly realize that his style, which is such a really nice and elegant style, was starting to get a bit lost in the process. So he quickly returned to his forte, which is the kind of very elegant songs, if you like. So if you look at the songs of Fresedo, you realize that unlike other orchestras, you don't have that many pauses, or at least the pauses are not very strong. So what this leads you to do when you dance on the Fresedo is, unlike, for example, what we did last time on the Troilo, where the stops are very strong and very strongly marked, Fresedo is almost the opposite. It's elegance, it's kind of fluid movement, and what we'd like to do, when we dance on the Fresedo is to convey that by a continuous movement. So not so much a stop and then restart, more like a continuous movement here where we stretch and there's always something happening, and we're going to use something which is interesting for him, which is why we're going to use the middle point a bit more. So rather than having something quite sharp, which would work on a some Troilos, for example, or D'Arienzo. On the contrary, we are going to really have it soft, almost like a continuous movement here, to indicate that the song is very, very melodic and soft and fluid. So this is how you might want to interpret a fresedo. Of course, there are many things that you can do, but really working on these elements of fluidity and elegance is something that you want to do. So working on how you position the foot, all this is important here, rather than something more like dramatic. So
it's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. That if you are interested in these composers, of course, you have a lot of information online, and it's very interesting to start to compare different songs. So if you listen to a fresedo and then a late troilo, wow, and it's so different in style. So it's almost like it's a different genre or altogether. So yes, it's still tango, but such like difference that it's this is actually what makes it very rich to dance in tango. So we're going to start with a very, very kind of fluid movement, very, very simple, which is just heroes to the left and to the right, but the idea is to make it continuous without too much stops. So I'm going to start with a hero to the left here, and I'm going to invite my partner to continuously here go from one side to the other here. So what I do is my feet is not really, really important here. The point is to see that there is a continuous movement here. My partner is, so if we start in this position here, my partner constantly feels that there is movement, but it's a soft movement here, so she wants to continue going back and forth here. So I'm going to do 5 steps to one side, and I'm going to do 5 steps to the other side here. So it's not extremely complicated here, but of course the interest here is the fact that we really express the fluidity of movement here. So how am I going to indicate the change of direction? This is the important point here. As my partner is arriving onto her forward leg here, and of course you are supposed to know the hero, you're going to have a little bit of compression and immediately it starts opening on the other side here. So same here, a bit of compression, and immediately I'm starting to send information that I want to go on the other side here. 1, 2, here, and immediately here, I'm taking it back here. 1, 2, and so on and so forth.
So followers and leaders as well, do you remember that for the last few Fridays and the technique class we've been talking about giros? So this is when we're going to apply it, okay? We need to understand the code of the giro to keep turning around the man. Shall I go with my palms?
Yes, of course.
Yes, okay, can I borrow it?
Mm-hmm.
Alright, so the very first thing that happens is a pivot here to the back. And now I'm going to go back, collect, side, collect, forward. And ocho to the other side. Forward, pivot side, and same thing here. Back, side, forward. Really try to enter the space when you're going back, back, side, forward. Same thing on this side. Really take your center with you with each step.
So for leaders, you have a lot of options you can do. What I like to do is, when I'm sending my partner to the left, is have to have a little planeo, which is this movement here, where I'm pivoting on the left leg, and my right is just doing a little bit of a circle here. When I'm sending my partner on the other side, is the same thing with the little lapis, where I'm going to do this thing here, there. So it's this way here, and as I'm coming back here, I'm going to have this movement here. So let's have a look how it works, and then we can practice it. So here, I'm sending my partner here. Now, why is she continuing to go? Basically because I have a bit of weight on the left part of my embrace, and this is why she feels she needs to continue to go. If you don't do that, then she might feel, oh, there's nothing there to go. So therefore, you have a little bit of launching to do if you like, and then of course the other side here. Maybe you can finish with a nice parada and then finish in good embrace here. So in terms of solo dancers, I'd like to suggest, if you're a leader, to have this little exercise that you can try, which is opening to the left, rotating quarter turn, and then having this leg being trailed behind in this way until you establish roughly, how much is it? 180 degrees. Yes? So, one, you open, you start with your pivot, you use your torso, your dissociation here, you have a strong dissociation, and that makes you want to pivot. You'll have to flex a little bit the left leg and point to the right foot for extra effect. One. And then you kind of put your feet together.
So what I would suggest...
Yes.
Sorry, I thought you were done. So what I would suggest to the followers is to do this exercise. Of course, leaders, you can as well join. So what I would suggest is to go back side forward, one more time, and then change onto the left step, and going on to the other side, back, side, forward, one more time onto the right, and then step left, and keeping an alternating side, and so on, so on.
And this is what we do in our workout during the vals, if you remember. Okay, so here, 1 and 2, I bring my foot around and I center here. 1 and 2, and so on and so forth. Yes. So should we try with music?
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll leave the music for a few seconds for you to practice, and we'll carry on with our next beat.
Para matar en Bruno, en que sus falsas palabras me apresaron. Vamos, corazón, no me hagas recordar que tengo mucho miedo de aflojar. ¿Qué cosas tiene el corazón en tu incurable afán sentimental? Que aunque te den mentiras por amor, no sabes más que amar y respirar. ¿Qué cosas tienes, corazón, en tu latir constante y pasional, que siempre está nombrando de tu voz lo que quisieras olvidar?
Okay. So we, as a tango dancer, of course, we love all these very, very soft tangos. I would probably say that Fresedo's masterpiece or most famous tango is most likely Vida Mia. Vida Mia, who was composed, or the lyrics were actually composed by his brother, who was also a musician, and together really kind of created something very, very nice. So this is something that we are going to play now. But we're going to have a look at what we could do in terms of soft movement, where one of us is not going to move and the other is going to be the one providing the energy. So I'm going to do a little planeo for leaders. It's a little bit more difficult than some others, but we thought that we'd actually show you because it's quite an interesting one and a bit kind of different from what you would normally do as a planeo.
A little bit of a challenge, guys, why
A
not?
challenge. Exactly. But before we do, we'd like to have a little exercise, which is basically for leaders and followers, of course, you can practice, where you can simply go forward, and I'm going to have this movement here. So what happens here is basically it's like an rosque, if you like, but I'm leaving my right leg to wrap around the other this way. I could, of course, do the same as we just did, which is here, which is an alternative for this planeo, but I'm going to alternate either this version here or that version when I'm basically in here. What the challenge will be, of course, is going to be the lead for this, where I'm going to imagine that I have my partner, so rather than being facing me, I want to keep her at a 90-degree angle, maybe not 90, maybe let's say 70, and with your embrace, you're kind of preventing her from wanting to pivot in the embrace, which is the typical reaction when we have this movement here, because of course, most followers will think, oh, this is a hero, I know how to do this. Let me show you. As soon as you start giving some space, the reaction is going to be, of course, that of a hero, which we just did. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that, but we're going to do a bit, something a bit different, when suddenly the follower is going to be asked to walk backwards without entering into hero. Doing this here, and I'm going to maintain her in this position here, and she's going to go backwards here. So of course this is very, very interesting because it allows me something a bit different, but the lead is of course the real challenge here. The actual step of stepping here and pivoting here is not necessarily very, very complicated. It's more the lead which is a bit more complicated here.
Yes, there's a few things that I want to say. I just would like us to demonstrate a few times for you with the real timing, because the walking around the leader is faster than what I just showed you now, and the reason is because that's going to keep the flow going. So let's demonstrate so they can see what we're talking about.
Alright. Interesting. So I'm going to start with a rebound because it allows me a bit more energy. So I'm going to go rebound, and then immediately here I'm going to send my partner to back and final little sandwich.
Let's show it a little bit this way. Yeah, thank you.
So I'm going to do a little rebound here, and I'm going to open sharply before I finish in this position.
We are still demonstrating a little bit slower than the real time, just for you to see what happens. So what I feel from, in terms of the impulse that I get of the leader, is that he is first left hinge to give me the rotation, and then very quickly is going to give me a lot of energy with the right side, but staying in his axis, not sending me far away from him, but actually staying in his place and going down quite a lot with this standing leg. Maybe you want to explain a bit about that?
Absolutely. So the reason I'm adding a little rebound here is because I use the momentum I have here to launch her to the side here before I finish here. So of course it's a bit difficult to do it slowly. Normally what we do, and of course it's also something which is not something we do very, very long, but the reason that our partner, the foil is accelerating, is because she feels there's a lot of energy to go around. And then finish.
Also, I feel a little bit of compression of the right side in order to block me, so that I don't think I have to go onto the backside forward, which is the code of the hero around. In this case it's different because he's blocking my space. My direction, my sense of direction going back remains until he cancels the position of the upper body. In this case, it's at the end when we go into planeo.
Exactly. So why is it actually we think appropriate for FRESEDO? Because there's energy from the follower, but of course the leader stays where he is, so the overall impression is something a bit more, yes, energetic, but quite at the same time more calming because of the lack of movement from the leader. 1 and pa-ra-ta-ta-ta, and then here I finish with this here, this little sandwich. So at the end of my little pivot here, I'm going to change my weight with my feet together, and I'm going to catch the foot of the follower, and I'm going to lead her into this movement here. So I think the last is a forward step for the leader, the follower, sorry, and I'm going to go a little bit down, wait for her, and then maybe at this stage I go a little bit forward to reconnect in the embrace here. I could either do that or stay here, it's up to you. Two options are valid. Normally this flaneur of the leader is done with a bit of an opening and embrace, because basically what you want to do is have this position here where you need the follower to be in this position here, and of course this arm has to stay here, therefore you need to have a bit of opening. 1 and 2, 3.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the ending. Can I ask you a favor? Would you check if the lights are at the maximum, because it feels a little bit dark in here. Okay, so guys, what happens with the exit of the step, let me show you this way. So I was walking around, back, 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 and notice this is not slow, 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 but it's step, 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 step. Now for the exit, what's going to happen here is a delay, so there is a cancellation of the upper body of the leader. I'm going to the side, and now I'm going to go forward, onto that forward ocho, part 1 and part 2. And then stretching the standing leg and invitation to go onto that ocho forward. I hope that gives you a little bit more clarification.
So how do I make sure that she goes from back only to basically a little hero at the end? I simply relax my embrace and I continue to open a little bit, and she will feel that suddenly she has to go into hero. So if we do it very slowly, maybe here, I maintain her in this position here, and then at this stage here, I just relax, and therefore she feels she can basically face me, and therefore she gets into this little hero here. Yeah?
Shall we demonstrate with music?
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to play Villa Mia, singing Roberto Rey, who was considered to be one of the greatest singers of his time, so this is also why maybe it was so popular at that time. Okay. So it doesn't have to be necessarily with too much energy. The thing, of course, to do is to have enough energy at the beginning and then to relax a little bit into it. So when we do a little rebound, is having enough energy here and then maybe relax into the rest at this stage here. So no need to be in panic. I think the secret for leaders is to make sure that they really have a stable axis here and they go enough down, because this will help, you know, your balance here. Because you're quite associated here, you're basically, the right embrace is going around your partner here, and you try to maintain this posture to actually make her go around you. So if you are starting to be a bit too high here, it's going to be a bit more difficult. So a bit of flexing always help in this way.
Yeah, that's a good exercise for solo dancers.
Yes.
So for you guys that are not coupled, why not doing this now? And remember, we have been talking about hinges for a few classes now, especially the Friday technique class. That's what happens is we can actually really put it into practice all the time, but here is fundamental. Because if the turning is going to be outside your own center, you're not really regulating that turn inside the axis of your shoulder, is not going to work out for your own balance, it's not going to be possible. Yeah?
And of course, for
Can I say a
followers,
few words about that?
yes. For followers, the challenge is not to start to go away, because as soon as you go away, then we can't keep our balance here. So it's really to feel the axis of the rotation, the center, if you like, the epicenter of the this little panel. And really having a constant connection. Maybe one thing that is important as well is the right part of the embrace of followers to have a certain push here, because if you just go with the body, it might be a bit difficult to start pushing. So as I'm getting to my panel, here I feel Paula is pushing me here as well. See the hand is stretched here. This is a sign because she's pushing me here. If without the arm, it would be next to impossible to come here and only rely on this part here. This would be quite difficult here. So make sure, follow that when you are going into your circle, that you reach out and behind the leader to give him a bit of energy here.
And at the same time, you have to keep facing the leader when you're going around, okay? Because if you're not facing him, you're not going to help him stay onto that axis. So what you don't want is this. You see, because here I'm actually still managing, but that was a little bit more challenging. So I need to keep the upper body to my partner. So I'm getting out of the way, but I'm still having that body facing him, not away.
One last detail for leaders, followers, know that this hand here is also active. She's on my flank, and she's going to help me with also a little bit of pull here, because without it, again, it's a bit difficult to only rely on one part only of the embrace. So you have a strong connection as usual. This is something that we always bring in every class and every technique on Fridays, is the followers embrace has to have a bit of firmness, otherwise it won't work.
So use a little compression here, the left side, compress here, and also compress with the right. But here I'm even more aware of this side because there's so much more surface here. I use both sides, but be aware that it's important to find the right balance of how much push. Shall we do it one more time, the music?
Yes.
And then maybe give them some time for questions.
Okay. So one last time, you can try. Okay, we give you a few seconds to practice and we carry on. Right, so let's carry on.
Okay, so there is here two questions. One is how we manage with the spacing and not trip over with our feet. Well, the most direct answer would be you have to respect your space and your partner's space for both of you. So
I have an answer to that as well.
okay.
My right arm here.
It's okay, go for it.
Okay, my right arm is going to keep her at a safe distance. So basically, look what happens here. As I'm opening here, I make sure that I have a bit of pressure here so that she's kept away from me and I'm not allowing her to get closer. So I also manage the space between us by having a certain firmness in the embrace.
We are not that close. The embrace is not that close. That would be, I think, impossible to do this step without any space. So there is still some space on the floor when I walk in my own circle and he's staying in the center of the circle. So we never on each other's way if we do it properly. And there was one more question from Steve, which was... are the follower steps around the same as leader steps when leading a calecita?
I would say they are absolutely going back. So it's very, very similar to the calecita, of course. The embrace makes it feel very different because I'm not having my partner on the right but on the left hand side. So this actually makes it feel very different. But yes, the idea is for the follower to do something that the leader would do in a calecita. But maybe the difference here is the calecita, I'm going to be a bit further from her axis of rotation, whereas here she's going to be a little bit closer because she's just at arm length. This way.
It's really difficult to do it this slow.
Slow is super difficult. Okay, so I'd like to have a very quick, to show you a very quick exercise that we'll prepare for the next part. And you will need one shoe. Now I've chosen a very nice shoe right here. I would like you to place it on the floor this way. Can you see it? Is it in frame?
Yes, just a bit more back.
Okay.
To you. Yeah, that's it.
Here, good. So I have my shoe here. It doesn't matter which it is. You can even put a slipper if you like. And I'm going to go forwards with the right leg forward. And I'm going to make sure that I step close enough. But I'm going to have this movement here. So what happens here is I'm going to have a fair amount of pivot before I go. So remember that of course this is preparing for what's happening in the next few seconds. So therefore what you should do is make sure that your embrace is not turning this way because you can't be back to your partner as a leader. So what you need to do is find the torsion inside the hips to really bring this element here. So my torso stays forward as I'm doing this here. So I'm going around the foot, the shoe, here and here. Note that a couple of things happen. First of all, I'm going to flex a little bit on the right foot here, or the right leg, and I'm going to start extending before I arrive on the straight leg here. So I'm not trying to be straight from the top because it's going to be very difficult to find the space with the follower.
Would you mind showing it the other way around?
Yes, of course. Okay, so let me show it around. Right, so here I'm going to go forward and I'm going to see the space here. Again, my torso is staying towards my mirror here, towards the front, and the hips are doing all the work to find the space around here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Oops, a bit closer. 1, 2, 3. One last time. 1, 2, 3. So it's not very difficult with a shoe, of course. It's going to be a little bit more complicated with a follower.
Let's put that to the test.
It's okay, it's not just a shoe. So, I'm going to send my partner forward, but I'm going to overtake her a little bit and immediately try to establish contact with my back foot, my back leg, which is the left. And it's going to send her into some sort of bolero. 1, 2, here. So I have, of course, to have a bit of space in the embrace.
Should we show it this way so they can see this way?
Yes.
This way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm going to go forward and I'm going to attack with my left. It's going to push her right leg this way and I'm going to go this way here. So I'll show it a few times, maybe this direction here is good. Here. 1, 2. And I finish after a little change of direction. So what my partner is doing.
So I feel the extension here for a big step. And then, keeping on transferring the weight onto the back, with the rotation that my partner is giving me, then this happens. So the free leg, can I just show it a little bit slower? This way we need to do, just for me to show. So we have this situation here with a big step. Then I'm going to transfer, it's okay, we need to do it. I'm going to transfer to the back, and this is the moment where the sacada happens. Sacada, and the energy of rotation is going to take my free leg around. For now, keep it on the floor. And then we have 180-degree pivot to go onto that back ocho. Later, when this is working and you have a bit more experience, you can then bring that leg into the boleo, high boleo, and exit the same way.
Interesting. So,
Mm-hmm.
here. 1, 2, 3. Now I'm going to make it a little bit more interesting for myself because rather than doing 1, 2, 3, I'm going to have a change of weights, so it's actually a bit more interesting for the leader, which is 1, 2, and then I'm going to come back here. So let me show you. A bit more, that's it. Here. 1, and then 2, and I go around my partner this way before I finish. So what happens here, I'm going to catch this moment. If I do it with this angle here, I'm going to first establish contact with the leg. It's going to produce a sacada. I'm sending her here, and very quickly I go back with my left leg, not the right, because if I do, I can go around with my right and finish here. And then obviously finishing with the cross here. So, let me show you again, slowly. Here, sacada, I change my weight, I go back to the left, around with the right, and I finish this way.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that's
No, it's okay.
One thing that's important for a leader, especially if you're in a couple, is to really pivot enough with the hips. Can you see? I'm really kind of managing the space so that my hips are really rotating, so I have enough space to enter. If I don't pivot enough, if I attack a bit too straight here, then it's very difficult for me to find the time to pivot and find the space because she's already gone. So basically what I'm going to do, I'm going to quote cheat a little bit by having my hip a little bit turned this way, so it's easier for me to enter. Yes, so I'm preparing basically the sacada by having my hip a little bit open towards my left, so that I have less to do, if you like. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So exercise for solo dancers for followers, and of course, please, if you'd like to do it, would be to go into that big step, transfer, and then going into the bolero on the floor. And then pivot and repeating the other side. Make sure you transfer completely your center to the back leg before you bring that leg in. And repeating, transfer and in, and transfer and in. It's a little bit tricky to do it by your own, but if you manage that, it's going to be so much easier when you try with a partner.
And for me, it would be attack, change of weight, 1, 2. One more time. Attack, change of weight, 1, 2.
Yeah?
Mm-hmm. Here, attack, 1, 2. Ta-da-dum, 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 ta-da-dum.
Okay, one final tip for the followers. For the free leg, try not to have too much weight or energy. Just let the leg kind of resolve by itself, the movement, with the energy that you have been given with the sacada. Don't add additional impulse to it, otherwise it's going to be too much. So let let that leg finish the movement with the energy of the previous step. Let me show you just to finalize. So we have the sacada here.
Yes.
Now I'm going to get a lot of energy inside the leg. Yeah, a lot of energy just from that sacada. So that's, I only use that impulse, nothing else.
So for me, an advice for leaders is when you do this sacada, make sure that you still remember that you are dancing on the fresedo. It means that it's not a very sharp one. You know, you make it like soft and nice. It's more like a little dream. You know, it doesn't have to be too sharp. It's like palm, and then slowly resolve into this here. So there is a certain amount of elegance and slowliness, I would say, or something a bit kind of relaxed, as opposed to something which would be more progressive, where you would attack very, very sharply, if you wanted to do that, of course.
Shall we show it with a minute? Actually, we're almost done.
Yeah, should we do it? Yeah, sure.
Yeah, well, it's just a
seconds?
short time, yeah.
Okay. So we'll give you a few seconds and we'll wrap up the class with a few announcements. Right, so let's have a few announcements before we close with a little improvised demonstration. So we are back on Friday for your next pure technique and styling workshops, 7 p.m. for leaders and 8 for followers. This will be around the theme of musicality and speed, so kind of carrying on what we did today.
Second edition.
Second edition, exactly.
Last week was first edition and this Friday second edition.
Absolutely.
Then on Sunday,
2 p.m. for beginners and 3 for intermediates as usual. So you have an afternoon of tango, and we are back on Tuesday at 12:30 UK time in the lunchtime for your workouts, which is designed to make you sweat, obviously. And finally, next Wednesday is our next Wednesday edition. So we hope that you will have a very, very nice week ahead. A couple of things we'd like to add to that. First of all, if you are interested, we have a full library with everything that was published so far. This is your address. Have a look, You have access to all the lessons that were given. There are 22 or 23 as of today. And Instagram, if you are on Instagram, please connect to us at Tanguito Academy and Paula Tango. And finally, of course, important to know that if you want automatic notifications from YouTube, you can register to our channel, and this will this will tell you when something is planned going to be live. Finally, we have this link where you can purchase a ticket. You want to show the second one?
Yeah.
You can purchase the ticket here.
So guys, if you have not yet, please do so, because it's the only way we get paid, and we're really happy because it's a lot of work to do these classes for you guys. We do love it, but we also enjoy when we receive something back. So thanks in advance. And I think we are going to demonstrate for you what we've done today.
Absolutely. Are you happy with the idea?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for coming today. So we hope you enjoyed your FRESEDO. I recommend to you guys, all of you, to have a look at his work on YouTube. He's really an amazing artist. So enjoy his songs. very, very nice and fluid, and the idea is really to have a nice connection with your partner to enjoy this dancing rather than trying something too quick, too harsh, so which is very different from other orchestras. So thanks again for coming.
Thank you so much, guys. We're going to leave you the link where you can go and do your donation or pay for your ticket. It would be great. And we see you very soon again.
On Friday. Okay.
So have a lovely evening, guys, and see you then.
Thank you for coming. Bye.